Okay, so another thing I wanted to talk about in this period, and this is a period, around 500 BC or so, give or take. Need to say a little bit more about the great epics that this period is known for. And there's three of them I want to talk about. One is the Ramayana, the Mahabharata, and the Laws of Manu. So we'll go in that order. The Ramayana is basically a single long narrative poem that's around 48,000 lines long. And its earliest sources, earliest copies of it, date to around 400 BC to 200 AD. It's probably older than that, but early on there was a taboo against putting religious texts in writing. So almost certainly it was passed down orally from probably centuries before that. And it focuses on the adventures of Prince Rama, a prototypical kind of hero who becomes a god. Ramayana is written in a very simple, very easy to follow style. And of course, if you know Sanskrit. And the stories of Rama are much more well known to Hindus than Bible stories are even to the average Christian. Early Brahmins, perhaps not surprisingly, seem to have edited the work, and they turned it into kind of a devotional to Vishnu, who is manifested in Rama. So Rama becomes kind of a savior to many worshippers, and he's portrayed as the ideal man, the ideal husband, that no matter what, he follows Dharma. And his wife, Sita, is portrayed as the ideal woman, strictly following her duty as a mother and wife. Now, most Hindus obviously don't know a language like Sanskrit, just as Christians, don't know Greek or Latin. And many Jews don't really know Hebrew well enough to read the original sources. So vernacular translations are huge sellers of the Ramayana. So I wanted to ask you a couple questions. I wanted to just think about them, and I'll just pause for a second or whatever. But do you think that the Bible is one of the best-selling books in the Christian world? Well, it is. It happens to be the #1 seller. Do you think that here in the U.S. that people would watch a two-part miniseries about Moses or a two-part miniseries about Jesus? How about a week-long miniseries about, let's say, Jesus, or a month-long one? Well, there's been several longer, versions. I mean, 2 days, obviously, people would probably watch it. Week-long, almost certainly. Month-long, maybe, maybe not. Do you think that Jewish Americans would watch a mini-series about Jesus' disciples? Maybe, maybe not, probably not. Well, I asked you all those things to put this in some perspective. So in the late 1980s, at 9:30 in the morning every Sunday, 80 million Indians tuned in to see a television epic called the Ramayana. And the thing is, like I said, the average Indian really, knows those stories in and out. And even though everybody knows the story, nobody was really bored. So it was so popular that after its run of 52, that's right, 52 weekly episodes, hordes of viewers went on strike to demand more episodes be made. And so they made 26 more episodes. There was an occasion where the villain, whose name is Ravana, was set to be killed because he's killed in the story. And fans traveled by foot great distances to the studio to try to plead for his life, even though they knew that he died in the story. Now, this series brought a lot of Indians together. It was watched by not only Hindus, but also by Muslims and Sikhs. The cast consciously had actors and actresses of many different religions. And the actors became so identified with those gods and heroes in the story that people would touch their feet in public and ask for blessings in public, which is like super typecasting, I guess. And it's a clear example of just how powerful religion is in India today, and any kind of religious-based subjects, and they continue to be very powerful and very influential. And it also shows the unity of India itself today. Now, you can go on YouTube and find the Ramayana. Just be prepared that certainly by our standards, it's cheesy to say the least, but you could tune in and decide for yourself. Well, anyway, we've already said some things about the Mahabharata. It's not technically an epic. It's a huge collection of over 200,000 lines written by many different authors over the same time span as the Ramayana. So the majority of it dates from 400 BC to 200 AD or so. Most of it deals with a great war that's fought in northern India. It's fictional, but it's probably based on a real war, kind of like the Iliad was based on the Trojan War. The Mahabharata is the most important part of the Bhagavad Gita, as we've mentioned. Well, lastly, is the Laws of Manu, which is also written in Sanskrit, and it's written in somewhat epic form. Dates from around 200 BC to 200 AD. And it's a law code of about 5,000 verses in 12 chapters based on decisions of earlier judges. So it's a precedent law code, we might say, or something like that. Now, scholars disagree, even today, over how much it's based on precedent as opposed to what just the author wanted. But it's written in such a way, and it has served to strengthen the position of the Brahmin caste at the expense of the lowly. And it's pretty restrictive and condescending to the lower strata of society. It has some problems, but it does become one of the bases of what we might call Hindu law. It talks about women a lot, who at this point are going through a period of worsening status. The more influential and, I guess, established Hinduism becomes, the worse the position of women gets. So, and we mentioned before that Hinduism is kind of falling into place as we go through this period. So I'm going to stop there with just, I guess, part one. Part two is on a different subject. So anyway, hold tight for that.